Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How is everyone? Hello. We
Hello.
Hello chat. How are we doing? Hello. Also,
Hello.
um please, I got a new mic and with it new sound software. So if it is quiet or also burning your eardrums, please let me know. And I will turn everything up because I thought I had it figured out and I just don't. But welcome with that out of the way, with like just a disclaimer that I just run into a lot of tech issues. Now that that's out of the way, I would love to introduce the beautiful guest here with me today. Got the wonderful Melee Mira, and then
Hi.
the wonderful Wasabi,
Hello.
and the amazing Bailey Volchigam.
Hi.
And we are here to talk about disability and content creation and all that stuff today. Um, Basically, July is Disability Pride Month, and I wanted to put these streams together because I feel like every year, nothing is ever said about it by like the big boys in gaming. Oh, there's Switch. Wait, listen to me get some tech issues already. Let me. But I feel like, hold on, you didn't see a thing. You didn't see a thing, so it's fine. You did not see a thing. Nothing happened.
It's fine.
All
I don't know
is
what you're talking
good. Look at
about.
that. I don't know what you guys are saying. Nothing. Don't worry.
Oh, that's hilarious.
There we go.
Actually,
Anyway,
that was totally planned.
Yeah.
So
that was,
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
testing everybody in chat
Great.
to see if
It's
you
such a
knew
good
who everyone
prank.
was. Uh,
Oh
freaking got
dear.
you.
but anyway, as I was saying, that's fine. It's two mistakes today. With the third one, and we'll be done. We're good. Um,
Oh.
I feel like every year, Disability Pride Month basically is not mentioned or really talked about by like big games companies or really discussed or promoted. And so I basically sent a tweet out, basically like, would anybody want to do this with me? And luckily, some people said yes. And then luckily, some wonderful people wanted to sponsor us. And so here we are, and now we're doing it, and now I have to actually do it. Hello. um, so I want to say thank you to our wonderful sponsors before we start. Elgato, who have very kindly sponsored all of the streams this month, and the wonderful Molk, who are a slow fashion underwear company who they sent me some bits of their stuff and it's really really comfy, who are sponsoring this stream and another stream during the month. So thanks to you guys, it meant that I could have all these wonderful guests on, which is wonderful. So yeah, we're doing it. Oh, Shay Shay, hello. Thank you for the gifted subs. I've turned off sounds for while we're chatting and stuff. So if I miss any alerts, I apologize. I just may not hear them. But yes, thank you so much. And so if you guys want to introduce yourselves, talk about who you are, what kind of content you make, that would be great. Mira, if you want to go first, and we'll just.
Okay. Gosh, Molly just put me on the spot.
I'm
Why
so
don't you
sorry. You know what? Actually,
Um,
we'll just pretend you're not even here. It's fine.
just turn my volume all the way down?
Yeah.
But hi everybody. I am Melee Mira. I use she, they, or any pronouns. I am a Black, queer, disabled variety streamer on Twitch and voice actor. I have been a gamer for a long time, and so it has been super nice to kind of blend things that I really enjoy. And I've obviously met some wonderful people, like you can see all around me. Um, but I try to actively promote a safe space by making mention of the importance of racial equity, LGBTQIA plus rights, accessibility, and more. And my streams overall are equal parts chaos and equal parts comfort. So it's a nice little blend.
I can't confirm that. They are both chaos and comfort, and I love it. Abby, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your content, anything about you?
yes, so hello all. Thank you all for coming. My name's Wasabi. I have ADHD and specific learning disabilities. I work full time as an occupational therapist, but I'm also a content creator. It's mainly on games, on the games I enjoy playing, and also a bit of like my own interest as well, such as cosplay, anime, bit of fitness, relatable lifestyle stuff, and also educational stuff, based on ADHD and, learning disabilities as well. So, yeah.
I love it. And Bailey, what about you? Tell us about your wonderful self.
Hi, I'm Evolsium, or you can call me Bailey. I am a neurodivergent Latina on Twitch. I do a variety of games on my stream, but most importantly, I try to use my space as a way to uplift marginalized people and kind of call each other out whenever we need it and learn from our mistakes and have just giving ourselves a voice that we deserve to have, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I am loud. I'm going to be on my best behavior today, but I am usually very loud, very much a potty mouth. But we like to have fun. But you know, sometimes we gotta have a little chaos in there.
Thank you so much. And also, chat, you've been so cute. Everyone's like, "Hi, Bailey. Hi, Abby," and love it. So cute. So thank you. And chat, if you want to introduce yourselves, feel free. Um,
All right, let's see. We're gonna put Little Hux on the spot. Introduce yourself.
Actually, Hux is like one of my like closest friends. So you know what, I would be interested in knowing more about them and just getting to know them a little bit better. And so if now that all the introductions are out the way, sorry, I'm really bad at segues, by the way. So if I'm throughout the stream, if I'm just like, and on to the next question, that's because I'm terrible at flowing. So yes, on to the first question. I guess I kind of want to sort of ask, this is a bit of like, not a complicated question, but maybe like a bit of an in-depth one, of how you all would like define being disabled or like having a disability or anything like that. Because I think when I was like sitting down and thinking these questions, for me, I did not think of myself as disabled for like a very long time when I very clearly was, because I was just like, I am fine. I can like feed myself and get out of bed, and like at the time I was like, I am in college, I'm doing great, nothing is wrong. And then meanwhile I'm like pooping 14 times a day because I am destroying my body doing it. But I wasn't disabled, so it's fine. So I would just like to know like your guys' opinions, your guys' thoughts on like how you would define disability or being disabled in like a society that very much is like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and like just get on with it, like you're fine. So yeah, very in-depth question, but if anybody has anything they want to input to that, I would love to hear it. If you hear my foster cat story, you didn't. I just saw that.
I feel like as someone who's like recently been starting to kind of be more comfortable say that they're disabled, it's just I define it as something that it is affecting your everyday life, and it is something that will it's something that whether it's society, government, other people, communities do not tend to, they don't accommodate to you. And if that is something that is happening to you personally, then yeah, you're disabled.
Agree. I think for me it was, I can't remember where I read it. It was basically like I started defining myself as disabled when it was like, does it take a huge effect on your day? Like, do you have to work around it? And I was like, yes. And then from that point on, I was like, okay, maybe me not being able to get out of bed like 2 days a week might be affecting my life just a little bit, maybe.
Just a teeny tiny
Just
bit.
a teeny tiny bit. Mira, Abby, did you have anything? Like, was there a point where you like saw your disabilities or anything like that as disabilities more than just like, oh, this is a thing that I have?
Do you want to go, Abby?
Go on, you can go. You can go.
I was just gonna say I completely agree with both Bailey and Molly. Um, I find that there is a stigma surrounding being disabled, and it has to have a certain look, which is not true at all. It's not just folks in wheelchairs or using walkers or anything like that. And like Molly mentioned, if it gets to a point where your body is kind of just giving you a run for your money, and it takes you out of commission for a couple of days or weeks or months or however long it is, and it affects your everyday life, then that absolutely is a disability. It comes in all different shapes and sizes. Um, there's no right or wrong way to be disabled, if that makes sense. And I think it's just important to be inclusive of all the different ways that people can be disabled. So it took me some time to like really come to terms with it, because I don't use like an aid to like walk or anything like that. Um, and just being like, okay, I get it now. Like it's different for everybody.
Yeah, and like so much on that stigma is just also all of us for the like we're young. There's a stigma around that. Like you can't be disabled. Oh, you're so young. And like you go to the doc,
Absolutely.
even from your own doctors, you go and they're like, "Oh, well, we don't need a test for that because you're only 27, you're only 30, you're only this." And it's just
Mhm.
and it's even worse when you are not only just disabled, but also a person of color or,
Mm.
or gay or what have you. And so it makes it even more difficult to fight back on that stigma. So
Mm.
I totally feel that. And like the whole thing with like using mobility aids, it took me years.
I was going to say the same thing.
Years. It
Mhm.
took me years to finally start using a cane when I needed it. There were days where I was crying in pain because I could not walk without it feeling like my legs were going to snap in half. And then finally, like one of my friends was just like, "Here's the cane I use. It's only $30. Please buy it." Like, and now I have to like shift into that and going to the grocery store while using a cane and getting people like looks from people, and I'm just like,
Mm.
so I still have to push back that little voice in my head that's telling me, "You don't need it. You don't need it." So yes,
Yeah.
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. I feel that same
Um,
way. No, Abby, you go. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
that's okay. How would you personally define? Personally, I would define it as not just a physical impairment, but also a mental impairment as well. And like it's already been mentioned, it substantially impacts your ability to do things you want to do in your, daily lives. And for example, with me, because I do work as an occupational therapist, and basically we focused on like improving people's independence, no matter mental impairments, physical impairments. Our focus is focusing on what you can do and how we can help to facilitate that, whether it is providing equipment, teaching new skills or techniques, or educating people. And sometimes for me, even the most simplest basic things people do without thinking can be, really hard and overwhelming and frustrating, because you just end up thinking like other people can just do this.
Yes.
Why can't I? But then when you look at it from a different perspective, for me physically, I seem fine, but mentally, I guess that invisible disability, it can be, also um, impact um, impactful as well. And yeah, for me, I wouldn't have classed myself as a disabled person, but whether, like I mentioned before, whether it's mentally or physically, when it impacts you to the point you can't even do the day-to-day things, it is a disability. But I think that's how I can define it and describe it
Yeah.
to people, if that makes sense.
I think it's also that thing of like, personally for me, like disabled is almost like seen as a bad word. Like nobody wants to be disabled. Like nobody wants to have that label on them. And so I think for me, that kept me away from describing myself as disabled for like many, many years. Until I read the definition of like, if it impacts your daily life. And I was like, okay, well, it kind of does. And it took like a long time, like a good few years to sort of undo like the idea of like, who, you know, nobody wants to be disabled. Disabled is a bad thing when really it's just like, it's like neutral. It's not good. It's not bad. It is just, it's like
It just
being,
is.
yeah, it's just like being brunette or something like that. Like it just is a description of what you are. And I think it's literally only bad because of the way certain powerful governmental authorities have framed it as like a bad thing. And so I just, yeah, I think it is difficult. And I think like if I can achieve one thing, it is that if it does impact you, like, and you want to describe yourself as disabled, like you can, like if that is something that you want to do, if you think it would help you, I think you don't have to have like a certain level of disability or a certain type of disability or be a certain age or anything like that to define yourself as disabled. If it's going to help you out, if it's going to enable you to like take the next step to like get mobility aids or to get like seek medication or anything like that you think would help you, like if I could just do the one thing, that would be it. And yeah, really bad segue again. On to the next question. Moving into the content creation stuff. For you guys, how do you find it keeping up with like the constant need to keep putting out content? Like it is a very common thing of like people say if you want to be a content creator, you have to like put out TikToks, you have to put out shorts, you have to be streaming like 8 hours a day on Twitch, you have to put out YouTube videos, you have to edit, you have to go to all these trips and all this stuff. And like I'm tired, I can't do all that. And so for me, I actually tweeted about it I think like last week or something, because I saw tweets from people who I've like not like friends but like definitely acquaintances within the UK gaming space who are basically talking about how like if you want to be in this business and you want to be successful as a content creator, you have to work, like you have to do it. And I don't know if this is like a passive aggressive tweet, but I just see that being like, I can't, like I physically cannot do that. That's great for you guys, enjoy, but like this space is physically not built for disabled people. And so I feel like companies and games industry, especially like people in the games industry, games companies have to make that leniency for us because there's physically no way that like everybody can keep up. And also there are other things that can affect that, like it's not just being disabled that can affect those things, but in terms of staying on topic, it is. And so I just wanted to, how do you guys find it, and why are we all withering away basically?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Like it's very difficult. Like for me, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. I feel like a lot of it is a bit of trial and error. When it comes to the planning, organizing, time management, etc. You know, it's proper hard out here because not only am I also balancing full-time work, life can be like really lifing at times, and then obviously the social life. I guess it's just regular burnout, but then getting back on track, and then you end up having a good week, but then it could be a bad week, a bad month, and then repeats, like, you know, rinse, repeat type thing. So basically, I don't find it easy at all. And honestly, like, fair dues to the, you know, content creators out there that can manage and keep up with it. Like, I want to be like you when I'm older type thing, but it's hard, it's difficult, but it's also important to not be too hard on yourself as well. Like, you know, but yeah, don't be too hard on yourself with that too. But it's hard to do that. Like easier said than done.
I
Easier said than done.
agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like Abby hit the nail on the head with that. And it's not just disability, like it can be just people that have full-time jobs, people that are parents, people that are caretakers. And I think it's very unfortunate. I think it's frustrating that this grind culture and I think people like to phrase it as being consistent when it comes to content creation, and there's nothing wrong with striving for that consistency, but it also completely overlooks people that have disabilities that can't plan out things like weeks or months in advance because we very much we are bound to what our bodies are doing.
Mm.
Um, so much like week to week, I have to like break up the tasks or chores that I have around my apartment just because getting out of bed some days is just super hard. And that even comes with streaming, which is, streaming is my full-time job. And I do like side things like voice acting, for example, but it is very much dependent on how I'm feeling any given day or week. And it is just really it's disheartening to have all these goals and plans and desires, but making it happen, like Abby said, it's a lot easier said than done.
Mm-hmm. It is
Yeah, the
hard.
grind culture is toxic and horrible. And every other week, we hop onto Twitter and there's someone else regurgitating the same discourse.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make it on so and so platform, you gotta work for it. You gotta earn it. And I hate that mentality so much. It's just like, what do you mean I have to earn it? Like, just because you were able to stream 50, 60 hours a week, I can't do that. Even if it's mentally draining, it is emotionally draining, and my body sitting here for hours at a time is so bad as a disabled person. Like it's impossible to do that if
Mm-hmm.
you are disabled. And like people never take that into account when they want to be spewing discourse online. They never take into account what it's like to be a disabled creator and
Yeah.
just the inability to do that. And like Mira said, like sometimes it's not even just that. Like we have lives outside of the internet. We are not just your entertainment. Like yes, it is part of our job, but that is our sole purpose of being here. Like Mira said, some of us are parents, some of us have lives outside of this, full-time jobs. Like I am a creator, I am a writer, I am a pet parent, I am a foster mama, like I am a partner to somebody, I am someone's daughter that I want to go care for my
Mm-hmm.
family, and I can't just sit here and care for you. So it's just like on top of being disabled, like we have to juggle so many things, and no one ever wants to think about that.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to read out Bombaz's comment because they said, horrible thing is that content creation is saying that the only thing a lot of disabled can do to try to gain income due to inaccessibility from regular jobs, which is so true.
Exactly.
I've I say like I've talked about this a lot, but you know what? I've tweeted about it a lot. If I say I've talked about it, it's probably I've like tweeted about it. It is that thing of like sometimes content creation is like the only accessible job because it's from home. You make your own hours. You can work it around like your brain or your body. You can work it around full-time work if you're doing that at the same time. But like for me, I worked full-time when I first graduated uni, and that's when I was pooping 14 times a day. And I was like and I was like in and out of hospital, like my body was just like breaking down. And so I didn't have a choice in leaving that job. And so when I see people who are like, you just have to hustle it, like if you really want it, you've got to just do it. And I'm like, I'm doing my best. Like it's not my choice, okay? It's what my brain and my body can do. So let's just like chill out with the pressure, okay? Like this job should be fun. And yes, not everyone gets to be like ninja or I don't know any big streamers or Pokimane or anything like that. Not everybody gets to do that, but also everybody deserves a space in content creation. Like everybody deserves to feel safe, to feel not pressured, to have a good time. Because like this job should be fun. Like if it, and especially for me, if it's all I can do, we should be offered some grace. And like everybody should be offered some grace. Like everybody's dealing, you know, it could be like mental illness, it could be neurodivergency, it could be physical disabilities. Like everybody deserves some grace. Like not like we collectively as content creators, we should be supporting each other and just being like, you do what you can do. Like I've got your back. Like I just feel like because content creation is so competitive that it's just like people feel like they're competing against each other, and personally not everybody can compete. I can't do like 24-hour streams or anything like that. I ain't got it.
I get tired after I stream for 2 hours, so like 24 hours is out of the question. But just to go off what you just said, Molly, and to just bottom line, streaming as a job is not lucrative. It's not, you know, like we have to come out of our pockets for equipment and things like that. And don't let your console or your PC like shit the bed, excuse my language, but like and I before pre-COVID, I worked in the school system and I loved what I did, but that was also a job that just didn't work for the types of disabilities that I have. Um, as far as continuing with that type of work, because it would have put me at risk, being that I am somebody that is immunocompromised. I'm also a caretaker for both of my parents at the current moment, and having to go from a school back to my home would have also not been a risk to me, but it would have been a risk to my parents as well. And so I've been very fortunate with my community supporting me as best they can, but like taxes, bills, like okay, like just it is expensive as hell to be an adult, and like we are all just trying to like figure it out and like do the best we can day by day. And so again, like I feel like this all relates to the idea of grind culture and it being like, you know, like this super positive thing, like, oh, you will automatically benefit by spreading yourself so thin, and that's not the case at all.
I even see non-disabled people like struggling with it, and I'm just like, I'm like, I have friends that'll just be like, I just feel so sad, like I'm not where I want to be in content creation. You know, I'm not able to put out the work that I want to because I'm working full time and I'm in a relationship and I have to cook and I have to do dishes and all this stuff. And it's like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. I think it is a very big, me going into my my woke agenda. It is a very like capitalist mindset to think you have to be like the biggest and the best and keep going and keep making and keep doing stuff. And it's like, it's okay. Like it's fine. If you know, it's like it's like it's okay. I just want to tell everyone that it's okay.
Absolutely. And just something that I'm very appreciative of the streamers that, you know, taught me the things that I know is that there's very much a seat at the table for everybody. And learning from other content creator friends to listen to your body, disabled or not, and just take care of yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and that is probably the most important thing that I've learned since becoming a content creator.
It's longevity, not like a roller coaster up and down. It's like a steady pace of what your brain and body can handle. Because if you do want to be in content creation, disabled or not, ideally you do it for like years, decades, whatever, however long the industry lasts. And I don't, it's not sustainable to be doing like 20-hour streams every day and sleeping like 3 hours. Like it's not sustainable. And so I think
Not to
understanding.
mention,
Oh,
oh, I'm sorry.
no,
I was
go
just
for
gonna
it.
say, not to mention that Twitch takes half of our income anyway, so it's
Mhm.
like,
So true.
Yeah.
So one of you on is gone anyway. But it is, yeah, it's hard. Content creation is hard. It's not easy, and sometimes, I mean, for me, it's all I can really do. Like I have to work from home, and so this is sort of where I ended up, and I am very grateful and very thankful for it. But I'm trying also not to die.
Yeah, it's like it's unfortunate that this is the way that it's most accessible to us, but at the same time, it's super inaccessible. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
like it's this
literally.
paradox. It's this paradox of like it both being accessible to us and
Mm.
like for us to be able to be at home and not have to go out into the world, but at the same time, it's just so inaccessible because like there's so many spaces
Yeah.
that don't want to make room for us. There's so many brands where it's just like if you can't meet these requirements, then we're not going to pay you
Mhm.
what you want, even though everyone deserves to be paid and I'm putting in work. But it's just it's tiresome. It's
Yeah,
tiresome.
I
And
think
it's
it.
just I'm sorry, what
No,
was
no,
that?
no. You go. You go. I was interrupting.
No, I was just saying because it's like I have had to turn down jobs because they refuse to accommodate, you know? And they're like, well, you get this many strikes, you're out, you're fired. It's just like they work on a strike system, or like, oh, sorry, you have to stand for 8 hours a day. You can't sit, you're going to have to stand in this place. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I'm so sorry. I cannot do that. So it's just, but then so I have to fall back on the accessibility of being online. But if you don't, and being neurodivergent is like another invisible disability that people don't like to talk about, which
Mm.
is just another way where it's just one more thing that you have to think about when you're in content creation, because not many brands and some communities don't even really see it as a disability. They're like,
Mhm.
Mm.
oh, well, you're neurodivergent. Well, that's whatever. Can you still do this like 10,000 tasks for me?
Yeah,
Mm.
Like, no, I can't. I'm sorry.
it is. I think it's different in the US. I think compared to the UK gaming spaces.
Mhm.
But we have like a lot more events in the UK. Um, but they are mainly based all in London, which I know for like Abby is like Abby lives in Wales, so like even just companies just being like, we'll just have all of our events in London because that's where everybody lives, obviously, and that's where all content creators are, is inaccessible in itself. Like
Mm.
I'm very lucky that I live like I'm able to get to London within like an hour, 2 hours, but were like outside of that, if I didn't, there's no way I'd be able to go to any events. Like there's no way
Mm.
I'd be able to get on a train ride every time. Like and there's sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But basically, even if events themselves are accessible, getting to them may not be. Like they may be close to say a tube station in London, but it's still going to be like a 15-20 minute walk from that tube station. And then also like just brain work of like planning out the journey
Yeah.
and then trying to like say for instance it would be easier for me to take instead of a tube like an Uber or a taxi, but then that's cost to me that like an abled person may not be able like have to consider it all. And so a big thing I try and advocate for is if you are hosting an event, if anybody is watching and is part of a game company and you're hosting an event, covering your attendees' travel is like the top thing you can do, because it doesn't just help disabled people, it helps people from like different socioeconomic backgrounds, it helps people from different geographical locations, like it just makes your event more accessible to cover travel. Okay, that was like a really long-winded way of saying that. But I know that doesn't necessarily apply to the US because like you guys are like huge over there.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's the same thing because, like, if all of our events, like, just recently, we started getting more and more tech things in, like, Austin, Houston, Texas. I don't live there, but, like, that, but forever, it's always been Los Angeles, New York City, and that's it. those are completely different sides of the country. And, someone that lives in like Ohio is
Yeah.
gonna have to take a plane and like have to fly. And if that person's disabled, well, good luck having your mobility aids being on the flight because they always break them and they always mess everything up. Who's gonna cover the cost? Not them.
No.
Yes. And like Bailey just said, like the amount of times I've seen on Twitter how airport staff mishandles these expensive mobility aids is so heartbreaking because there are people that quite literally can't live without them. Like for some disabled folks, it might be just it might be like a walker that they can fold up and just take with them, and it helps them for bad pain days, or when their mobility is a little more limited. But for like a power chair user, for example, as expensive that those are, and they just are so haphazard with them, is just, it's mind-blowing, like how little care and consideration is put into the disability community as a whole, and it's just really disappointing to see.
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to look at Jen's question, was that is there an added barrier when content creation itself isn't seen as a valid or recognized career in a lot of contexts? And I want to say yes and no, in that it's an added barrier, I would say, in terms of if after the pandemic started, obviously a lot of stuff went work from home, which was great because that made stuff more accessible for neurodivergent and physically disabled people. And so now, like for instance, in my case, I was able to start applying for jobs because they were work from home, which meant that I could actually do them. But because content creation itself isn't, unless you're like a big content creator or you've done a lot of events or you have connections, I feel like it is not necessarily seen as like a proper job. It is just like, oh, so you took some time off work for a little while and now you're trying to come back and you had a little fun on Twitch. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I put the hours in and I made my own graphics and I did all my own video editing and did my own community management. But I guess, yeah, it was just a load of fun. Thank you.
Just a little tee hee ha ha,
Yeah, just like a little bit of fun for a few years. It's fine.
I my blood, sweat, and tears to do this, but yeah, sure,
Yeah.
fun.
So yeah, I think a bit of yes and no. I think yes in that way, but I also think no, because I do think people within like the gaming space or within the tech space do understand like the value of content creation and being like a streamer and what it takes to get like your community and your content off the ground. So I think yes and no.
Yeah, for sure. Like when I tell people what I do as work, it is one of two reactions every time. It is, oh yeah, like so and so big streamer. That's so cool. You must be you must be making so much money. Like, oh man, do you get like free stuff for brands and like do you do this? And I'm like, that's not exactly how it works. They're like, so you just like only play video games and like that's all you have to do. You just play them and then people pay you for it. And I'm like, well, no. And then there's the other side of the coin where it's just like, so when are you gonna get a real job? Or like, and I'm just like, oh my god, you can't win either way. Like there's people that don't want to like help you and support you because they already think that like it's this glamorous thing where you're already making a lot of money, and then there's others where they don't want to help and support you because they're thinking that it's not valid and you need to go find a real job.
It's very much a catch-22.
Yeah, and like meanwhile we're wearing like a million different hats. Like I had to learn how to use Adobe Premiere. Like I had to become an editor. I have to put whatever past skills in like my degree into like this shit finally. Sorry for saying bad words. But like I had to like actively find new creative ways to become, a community manager. I had to become an editor, a writer, an event organizer. Like it's not easy, and everyone just thinks, oh, you're just playing silly games online.
Yes, people like I literally have had so many like not necessarily like my close friends, but like friends of friends or like family members who like I'll explain what I'm doing. Like they'll be like, oh, what have you been up to? And I'll tell them. They'll be like, well, I just thought you turned on the computer and like played your little games. And I'm like, no, but thank you.
No, Dad, be quiet.
Now, if I strangle you, I would be the bad person, right?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it is like very much the same in like a lot of creative jobs where it's just like, for instance, like artists is like, oh, you just paint pretty pictures all day. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I had to like do my own community management and like take my own product photos and like be a freaking web designer. But yeah, I guess like I'm just sitting here painting pretty pictures. That's fine.
When you're doing like when you and then like you have to like promo yourself, like you are like you are the one thing that you have to sell, you know, like you
Yeah.
are the product. And so it's like, so now I'm an editor, I'm a model, I'm a photographer.
You're your own hype man, basically. Like you're literally doing everything.
Me filling out my LinkedIn.
I've learned that in the last year. I am like, I have to be my own hype man because no one else is gonna be. So I'm just like, I am the best thing ever. I'm so good at my job. Like I just
My boss
doing
says
great.
I get an A+. Hats off on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that? I do the same line over and over for 30 minutes. Oh, on digital art and stuff. Just drawing the same line forever. We touched on it a little bit earlier. My next question was how like Bailey, you were talking about how neurodivergence in jobs isn't necessarily like factored into like accessibility needs and stuff like that, or for jobs in space in general. And I guess I just sort of wanted to talk a little bit more about that if we had any more to say on the topic, because I definitely feel like this is weird to say because I don't really talk about it much, but like I was diagnosed autistic earlier this year, and like I think I very much had a harder time coming to terms with talking to people about that than I did about like my EDS, so like my physical disabilities and stuff like that. And I feel like, I don't know if it's different in the US, but I definitely feel like in the UK, stuff like mental illness or neurodivergence is more stigmatized even than like physical disabilities. And I don't know if that is just because people can like quote unquote see physical disabilities, like if you're in a wheelchair or you have an aid or like have to take painkillers or anything like that. I feel like it's because people have like this tangible evidence of it. It's more accepted than like mental illness or neurodivergence in a way.
It's a wild thing. Because like I don't feel like one is more or less stigmatized. They are stigmatized in their own unique ways. It sounds like a lot more positive than it actually is. But they're stigmatized in different ways. So like I have struggled with getting diagnoses, re-diagnosed, undiagnosed, with a million different invisible disabilities, different learning disabilities, different what's the word I'm looking for? Like different social and all those different kinds of invisible disabilities, basically. You know, I was a child. Oh yeah, your daughter, she's learning things a little different, and she does these certain like things that we think your daughter may be autistic. Can we test her? My mother says, no, my daughter's not autistic. Forget about it. And then, you know, fast forward 20 years later, and I'm talking to doctors, and they're like, you remember when you got diagnosed with ADHD in college? Yeah, we don't think it might be ADHD. We think you're autistic. And then, then you go see another doctor. We don't think you're autistic. We think you have OCD. So it's just like this constant like thing. I'm like, and they never stop to think like, hey, maybe I could have all of it at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's been, for me, that process has been really rough. But like invisible disabilities in like workplaces and online is it's rough. I feel like because they are such a wide spectrum. You know, my autistic tendencies are not going to be same as Mira's autistic tendencies, you know. Mine I might get overstimulated more by sound. Someone else might get more overstimulated by lights and things like that. And no one really wants to accommodate to that. And I feel sometimes bad going to other content creators like streams and whatnot. And I'm like, I cannot be here. I am so sorry. I want to support you. You're an amazing person, but I cannot be here because you have flashing lights. You have 10,000 sounds. And I'm like, I can't handle that. I will break down, you know?
Yeah.
And then I also have a tendency to, be on the louder side of the spectrum. I tend to be loud. I have no filter, and I have resting bitch slash autistic face. They're like, she's too mean, she's too forward, she's too crude, she says these things, and brands don't like it. They do not like it one bit when you tell it how it is. And like, that is kind of where I'm at. And so I don't get to be in a lot of spaces because the way my neurodiversities are too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel that.
And
Yeah.
just to go off of what Bailey was saying, like there's so many comorbidities when it comes to a lot of neurodivergent things. And for myself personally, I am 29 years old. I turned 29 this year, and this was the first time that I felt validated with a diagnosis. I got an ADHD diagnosis, I got an autism diagnosis. But all throughout schooling, like my primary school years, I struggled a lot. I have also been diagnosed with a learning disability, and that was something that I didn't find out until I was about to graduate high school. Um, I think there's also a huge problem with it being that case studies tend to focus on people that are assigned male at birth. And just this whole idea that people present in different ways, which is absolutely true, but there needs to be equal studies because, like Bailey said, the way that I present is going to be different from the way that she presents, or the way that Abby presents, or the way that Molly presents. It comes in so many different shapes and sizes. And, I feel like there is this huge disservice that is done to people that are neurodivergent because they don't exhibit the typical signs or symptoms, and then they just wind up falling through the cracks.
It is
No, I
hard.
agree with you.
No, you go, Abby. I didn't want to interrupt.
That's all right. Just to add to what Mira has said, because I do have a few information here, because so basically, I was diagnosed with specific learning disabilities and ADHD when I was halfway through my master's. So I was 26. So that's when I was diagnosed, and it's like, I guess you go through an emotions as well, where I feel like a lot of people will be able to rate. At first it's shock, and then it's kind of like, relief, be like, okay, this, now I understand why I do the things I do, why I was struggling, and this and that, and it explains a lot of things. And then you start going through like a bit of anger as well, like why now, like all this time it's been missed. And then I guess a bit of grief as well. I feel like you just go through like a roller coaster of emotions, especially being diagnosed as an adult. And as part of my masters, because I was failing everything, and it wasn't until one of my tutors was like, by the way, Abby, I think you should get yourself checked out, and I did, and that's how everything got the ball rolling. Still a struggle, but where was I going with this? That's one of the things that happens as well. Oh yeah. So also, as part of my masters as well, my dissertation was based on adult ADHD. So just because my memory is shocking, I'm sure a lot of people can relate in general. But I do want to share, a few information, a few research which I have, come across as well. which I feel like a lot of people can relate to as well. So when it comes to, ADHD, like for many years it was regarded as a childhood disorder. But it's now been acknowledged that it does persist through into adulthood, which does, but also with ADHD, like you mentioned, it can overlap with other conditions as well. So based on the UK, for example, because that's what my research, my dissertation was on, it's known to be unidentified, underdiagnosed, and misdiagnosed and undertreated in the UK because it does overlap with other conditions. But there's also multiple factors like stigmas. Like Mira mentioned, there's a lot of research focusing mainly, on boys, and when it comes to the girls, because they present differently to apparently the boys, that's why there's less research on girls.
Yeah.
And also when it comes to ethnic minorities as well, they're less likely to be diagnosed or treated as well. And because of all these stigmas as well, it also impacts also on the healthcare system as well, basically meaning there's not much funding being put in for ADHD and learning disabilities, meaning that it's less accessible to people who need it as well. So there's just so many barriers and different multiple factors that that impact that as well. So again, another thing which you're also contending with as well. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Completely.
So but no, it was interesting to come across those type of information on what's going on in the world, but more needs to be done. Basically, more needs to be done, especially when it comes to research as well. So yeah,
and taking intersectionality into mind, which they almost never do. Just repeating what you both have said, or all three of you have said, just that it's always white cis men. That's always what it is. It's always white cis men. And when you're femme presenting, it's always going to be, well, that's just how they are. So my tendencies of repetitiveness or organization or all these things, when they start leaning into almost a toxic territory, it's just that is the job of a woman. That is what they do. They are supposed to be the organized ones, and enabling these bad tendencies for
as
male
if they're
presenting
good things.
Yes.
Yeah. It is I think it is one of those things of like, even because of like the media representation we have for stuff like autism and ADHD, it was actually a friend that brought it up to me, was like, they were diagnosed autistic years ago, and we've been friends for a while, and they were like, just to let you know, I think you might be autistic. Maybe you might want to look into that. And I was like, nah, that can't be me.
Me with my autistic friends.
Yeah, like, definitely. Yeah. Like, when you start to learn more and know more about it,
yeah,
like, you start seeing it in other people, and you don't want to be that person. Oh, by the way, but it's like,
just so you know,
that's literally why I decided to go for a diagnosis, is because all of my ADHD and autistic friends are like, they have like idiosyncrasies, for lack of a better term, and I'm like, I do that. In fact, I do that a lot, and I'm just like, oh,
I remember
I need to go get tested.
Someone in my community, some of you might be familiar with Resquache, who is autistic. There was like a one day where I was like describing something. I don't even remember what I was talking about. I was just like, yeah, I have to do it this way every single day, because otherwise, if I don't do it, I fall apart. And they were like, Bailey, are you autistic? And I was like, my finger over the delete message. I was like, wait, are you seriously asking? And they're like, yeah, because I'm autistic, and that sounds like you're autistic.
Like, are you dragging me? Or are you being serious right now?
Yeah. And that was like 5 years ago, and I was like, oh, okay.
Do you ever find that you like attract people? Like, I think you attract other
Yeah,
neurodivergent people as
it's
well.
a common thing. I think because like
yeah.
you can relate. Like if you're like oh, I couldn't get dressed today because like my socks felt weird on my feet. Your friends would be like, yeah, no, I feel that. That makes sense. Yeah, that's great.
My socks inside out as a kid because the little inseam on the
Oh, the
inside
Yeah.
drive me up a
Country.
wall.
Yeah.
And my mom would be like, "Stop turning your socks inside." I was like, "They don't feel right."
Yeah. I'm
was
like
that
one of
kid-
those that's a rocker as well. I like swing.
Yes,
Even
I
in
always-
work,
yeah.
I'm like
Or
that.
I shake
Oh
my
my God, I'm
leg
being
a lot.
called
Oh, yeah,
out.
I do
I'm
that.
literally like,
I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I rock a lot too, and I was like, I
Yeah.
looked at myself right now, right as you said, I was like, oh no. Like normally, I'm like, I have to stay still. I have to
Yeah.
stay still because like that's
That
what we're.
masking as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're
Yes.
forced to mask, and so they're like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" As I'm, you know,
I'm fine.
going back
As I'm
and forth.
shaking and rocking back and forth, like
Oh dear.
And it is
I was
'cause,
that
like,
kid that hated the socks that have like the individual toesies too.
Oh, yeah, I think
Oh.
everybody is. Those are gross. If you like
Get them away from
I-
me.
Oh man.
I think it
Oh,
is
dear.
like for me, like my only representation that I'd seen of like autism and ADHD was like what I'd seen in like films and TV shows, which was always like a 13-year-old like boy who was like obviously it was never played by an autistic actor of any kind, but it was
course
so
not.
it was like very much like an over the top sort of I don't even know how to describe it. I don't want to describe it as acting. It was just whatever that was. That was very common in the 2000s. And so when said friend like suggested it to me, I was like, that could not be me. I do not have those traits. I do not
Yeah.
have any of that. And then I started doing more research into it, and I was like, okay, maybe like this rings a little bit true. Like
Well,
maybe I
actually-
did get up at 5 a.m. every day and transcribe the entire script of the movie Grease. Like maybe that was me. And so it's just things like that where I was like, oh, that would make a lot of sense now. Because I think when your parents or your caregivers don't like know this stuff, and because I would say only with like our generation that it's come more to light that like the neurodivergency presents in such different ways. I think our like the generation above us, for them it was just like, oh, you're a little quirky. You just sitting in the corner, just playing by yourself, doing nothing, just like
Not
writing
the
out an entire
quirky.
book. It's
Not
just
the manic pixie dream girl.
it is just.
I
that-
just wanted to mention too, because I feel like it's so related to like the stigma that we were talking about earlier. And I never watched the show, but I saw on Twitter, and this was probably like a year ago. You know what I'm about to say, don't you? It was an episode of Girl Meets World.
I never
and
watched it.
It was, I don't know the characters' names, but it was a young boy, and he was saying how his parents were going to get him tested for like autism or whatever. Where he was like, oh, yeah, my parents think I'm autistic. And then Rowan Blanchard, you know, I don't know her character's
Riley.
name.
I
Riley, okay.
unfortunately know all their names. Okay.
But Riley she had like the most like disgusted reaction. She was like, no, you're not. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I
in
think
our
I saw
year,
the clip
like-
on TikTok that you're talking about.
yes. Oh my gosh. I was like, it's
Grabbing his
like,
shoulders.
yes. She was like, let's go tell them you're not. And I'm like, it's okay if he's autistic.
Yeah, they're like, not only that, they were like using an outdated term. They were using
Yes.
Asperger's. And so they weren't even saying autistic. I'm like, nobody says that anymore, babes. You can't, we
Right.
don't do that because that person was horrible. We don't use that term.
Mhm.
But yeah, like the
But-
absolute disgust was.
Yes. But again, it all goes back to like the stigma and how it's depicted in TV and movies and just any type of media, like Molly was saying, like it's so misunderstood. And it's you know, it's odd to see the way it gets depicted in media.
Yeah, I think it. What was I? I like had a thing to say and then I've forgotten what it was. Oh, I think it is very much like. every time I'm on a panel, I like find excuses of like, there are people that are just gonna hate you, like in this case, like for being neurodivergent or being disabled, there are people that are just gonna hate you. And I think that definitely suppresses people talking about it, which is probably why like the generation above us just didn't know anything about like neurodivergency, and they just thought that if you were fine and not, you know, on death's door, like you were doing great, nothing matters. And so I think like I I think the best thing that we could do, or like one of the, not the best thing, but like a good thing that like our generation can do is just be very like loud about it, because there are people like, there are friends I've spoken to within like the last year who didn't even know that Asperger's was like an outdated term, like because it's, unless you were in, I think, neurodivergent circles, or you like seek out that information, you like there's just no way of knowing, because like medical organizations aren't going around being like, don't say that anymore, we don't do that. And so I think, again, like another part of being like a disabled content creator for me is like just being very chatty about being disabled and what it means and experiencing it, because like a lot of people in the medical profession just won't, like they just won't talk about it, or like if people don't seek out the information, again, they're just not gonna know. So you should watch disabled creators so that you can learn things from us, because we're very smart.
There we go. That's again, it's like that representation as well, isn't it? It's that
Yeah.
representation, but you know, that's needed. And with me being, well, how old am I? I guess it's been a couple of years, about 2 years since I've been diagnosed, and I'm still learning. Even though I'm an adult, I'm still learning about myself and my disabilities. And I'm not sure if you remember, Molly, we had our first meetup, our Saga fam, and speaking in front of people when there's questions which I need to answer. There was a time where oh, it was so awful. I'm getting flashbacks now.
No.
But it was kind of like a bit of an interview, and I didn't realize that was going to happen, and I just blanked out in front of everyone and probably had a panic attack and was just all in bloody pieces. I was a mess basically. And then I guess from like a content creation point of view, since then I was like, when it comes to, you know, doing stuff like this or hosting or stuff like that, I felt like my disabilities will not, like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't like to call it a weakness, but something I'm still working on, and I guess a development I need to be working on, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to kind of like relate it to like content creation. So when it comes to stuff like this, I do find it so difficult, that processing, knowing what you want to say, but it just doesn't come out right in words, and then the blanking, and then the anxiety, and then it's like so I guess as part of, you know, content creating, when it comes to that type of things, I feel like I would be struggling with, and I would tend to kind of like, you know, stay away from, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to know if other people have been in that situation, or how do they handle it, or like, or what stuff or tips do they do, try to, you know, to be better with doing stuff like that, if that makes sense.
But that is actually perfect, because that's the segue to the next question. Is like, what would make your life easier as a disabled content creator? So I guess like similarly to what you were saying, were you, I guess in terms of being disabled, I think there are often times where there's like a fine line between pushing yourself, like, and being like, my disability or like my neurodivergence stops me from doing this, so do I push through it, or do I sort of accommodate myself and say like, no, that's too far past the boundary, kind of thing. And I guess like for example, events again are like my worst nightmare, like going to gaming events. I am just not good in like face-to-face social situations. Like I really struggle to have like spur of the moment conversations. Like I'm really bad at small talk. I can't, like I my brain just goes blank. Like I literally don't, I can't do it unless you struggle with it, you won't quite understand like how it feels and how your brain just goes completely blank. um and so I think like in terms of pushing myself, like I definitely push myself to go to events. Like I know that it is beneficial to my career and my job and all that to be seen at events, to like do all the PR stuff, but I would so much rather just sit at home with my little dog and not do anything. But I think that's like one of the things I push myself to do. But it would be so helpful for me if like companies did more virtual events, or even just gave more like information ahead of events. So like a list of like creators that are going to be there, so I know if like other people I know are going to be there, and like I can script questions beforehand would be so handy, because I can be like, oh, I know that person. I know that at one point they talked about their cat, and so I can ask them about their cat again. That'd be so great. I'll practice that on the way there. That's so good. And so I don't know if there's anything for you guys that like between pushing yourselves or something that would help you as a content creator that you have.
I like the thing that you brought up though. Like, I read this about this person, so I'm gonna bring it up. And like, I remember when you were organizing this, I even asked you, I was like, can we get like stuff on them? Like, can I at least get their profiles and whatnot so I can see what they do? You know, like, are they a VTuber? You know, are they variety? Do they only stream Dead by Daylight? Like, I want to know. I want to know what they're doing so that I can be ready, because it's like that mental preparedness and the space that we need. It's a comfort and it makes us feel safe. And just jumping into something is like, it's terrifying. And I have to say, like, you doing this has been like the most accessible it has ever felt whenever I have been asked to do something. You know, whenever I ask to either co-stream or, you know, do a sponsor or something, like this has been like the most accessible and comfortable. And I'm like, part of it is like, okay, you're my friend, you know. But another thing is just the fact that you were like, here are the questions that we're going to be covering. There's no surprises. Here are the people you're going to be on the stream with. Here are their profiles. Here's a little something about them. And I was just like, this is amazing. I don't have to go in full of anxiety. I know at least something. I know what to expect. But definitely virtual things. I would love to have more virtual spaces than
Same here.
in person. Oh man, it's too much.
It's too much. It is. I was on a Pride stream. Well, I hosted a Pride stream like I think last week, and one of the topics I brought up was how to make, like, this is going off on a tangent, but I promise it's applicable. How to make like LGBT Pride more accessible to disabled people. And one of my things was yeah. That was a yes to Abby. And I one of the things I talked about was how to make it more accessible for disabled people. And I mentioned like virtual events. Like I felt like during lockdown in the UK, people put on virtual Pride events, and I was like, well, why don't you still do that? Like I understand that like able people want to have their parades and they want to like have the marches and stuff, and like I'm cool with that, but I can't partake in that. And so it'd be really cool if like organizers of, say, the London Pride, which is like one of the biggest Pride events in the UK, also were like, we're also hosting a virtual event for anyone that either can't travel to London, doesn't want to be in big crowds, can't walk all this way. Like for anyone like that, if you want to do that, then we'll host this event too. And I just think like, why don't people do more virtual events? Like it is good for people in different geographical locations, like people who might not be able to afford travel. And so I'm gonna keep saying it because I'm hoping that eventually some sort of PR or games company will be watching and they'll do it.
100%.
I'm definitely on the same page as far as virtual events, and even even when it comes to IRL events, it is not safe for disabled people. And that's just the bottom line. I wish that 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 wasn't the case, but even, and I might get crucified by Mr. Twitch for saying this, but like, what was it, TwitchCon last year,
Don't even get me
where
started.
somebody got injured in the foam pit or whatever it
Really?
was.
Mhm.
I saw on Twitter how
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
somebody who had a service animal, service dog, and of course, people coming up and petting it, and even Twitch staff or like security at the venue were like, you can't have animals in here, even though the dog had on the vest that says working service animal. And it's just like, give us something, like make us feel included somehow, some way.
Yeah.
We already know that accessibility and consideration for the disabled community is already an afterthought, but it's like, even when we kind of leave our comfort zone, so to speak, and we attend these events in person, it's still like pulling teeth just to try and get even the slightest bit of accommodation. So I would like for people to be more mindful that, you never know who is attending these events. And like we've been saying all stream long, that there are invisible disabilities. That doesn't make those people less disabled.
Yeah.
So either focus more on having online events or focus on being better for the disabled community for IRL events.
Agreed.
Mhm.
I think also.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You go.
Oh, I just wanted to talk about TwitchCon. I've only been to 2 TwitchCons, one 2019 and one last year. I didn't even buy a ticket actually last year. I was just kind of out and about in the convention area. But the reason I didn't buy a ticket for last year is because they absolutely refused to actually enforce mask mandates. And then also from what I saw from 2019 was they do the bare minimum when it comes to accessibility. There was little to no seating throughout the convention center. So there was nowhere to really rest. If you wanted to sit down, you would have to find the very sparse tables to sit down at or sit on the floor. There's a one point where I had to sit on the floor to eat my lunch inside the convention center.
Yum.
And also elevators, they don't always close them off for only those that need them. So there would be people using wheelchairs and power chairs and whatnot that would have to be waiting forever to be able to use a elevator so that they could get upstairs. And so it's just it was a lot. It's too much. And I remember when I went last year, I was so happy that I did not actually buy a ticket, unfortunately, because when I would show up, there would people, as soon as they walked out of the convention center doors, rip off their masks and try to talk to me. People, some of them weren't even wearing masks in the first place, and it was not great seeing that. There was at one point where I was like, "Hey, it's me," and like I guess they didn't like hear me say my name because it's loud.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to repeat yourself. But they were just like, "Hold on, who are you? Can you take off your mask?" And I was like,
No,
"It's
that's
me,
why it's on.
it's me," and it was just like. I can't take off my mask. I'm sorry. You were just at a very crowded convention center. I don't know what you have. Carrying on you. So no, I cannot. So it's just it gets very performative too. People be like, you need masks, you need to wear a mask in public, but then they go to crowded events and they just forget everything because they want to appease to brands, and it's rough. And so every time I saw a panel that someone was wearing mask even at the panel, I was just like, thank you so much. And after the event, everyone coming forward being like, "Oh, I got COVID. I got COVID." I'm like, I wonder how. Meanwhile, me and the group that I was with, we every time, even if we were outside, we're wearing masks like constantly. None of us got COVID. And like Mira visiting for my birthday during the pandemic at one point, none of us got COVID because we all wore masks when we were transporting and doing things and, stayed away from public places. So it's like, it's possible to do events if you just wear a mask and have
Mhm.
ventilation and do outdoor things. It's not
Yes.
impossible. So brands, please remember that.
I think also oh, sorry, did I interrupt someone?
No, you're good.
Oh no, I was gonna say in terms of I guess this is related, but not directly like event accessibility related at TwitchCon. But I've only been to one TwitchCon. I went to like the first year they did the Europe one. I think that was either 2018 or 2019. I can't remember. And I remember them doing panels on diversity and also like on disability. However, this is just like a side note. The only people, I believe, I don't know if it's changed now, but I think at that time, the only people who could arrange or be on panels were Twitch partners, which obviously, for reasons that we have spoken about earlier in this stream, not a lot of disabled people probably have the possibility to either do the hours or put the time in to become Twitch partners, to organize panels on disability or to be on panels about disability under Twitch's rules, because it's a barrier in the way of like the hustle culture of content creation. And so I just found it quite ironic that we were having these panels on diversity when, people of color are less likely to be partners than like white people. Like the top earners on Twitch are majority white. Disabled people are less likely to become partners because we can't put the time in, we can't put the work in as much as like able-bodied people. And I just found it really quite ironic that Twitch was doing this. Well, to be fair, I don't even know if Twitch organized the panels or if it was someone put it forward. But either way, for Twitch to know that they have these panels on like diversity and disability and just be like, panels are enough. We are good. We are safe.
Very much just for show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious that they don't genuinely care about the disabled community that makes up a huge part of Twitch as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's been incredible to see since Twitch gave us the different tags, being able to find people like us. But it also just goes to show, because there are so many excellent disabled creators or creators of color that have the energy and that genuinely care about their communities and put their best foot forward. But like you said, there's obviously a very disproportionate amount of disabled partners or partners of color. And it's because, again, it all is just like the snowball effect of grind culture at the very root of it being the issue.
Like a
The check mark is pretty, but like I just want to make my emote prefix poggies. That's it.
It is like it's a mixture of like it's a mixture of the grind culture, I think, and also like, I mean, general systematic like barriers of like game companies, they're owned, and tech companies are owned by white guys. So like, unless change is happening from the top down, like they're gonna hire white guys to be part of their team, they're gonna hire white guys to be part of their marketing campaigns, and they're gonna hire white women to be like the face of their beauty line and all that kind of stuff. And so like, obviously those people are gonna get more publicity if they've got these huge companies behind them, whilst like everybody else is just kind of like, hello, just chilling, trying to do my best. And it is that thing of like, I very much think on Twitch, there are different ways to grow, but I think one of the fastest ways to grow is if you have like gossip about you, or you have a big company behind you, or you get into some sort of drama, and usually those people are either already big or they're white men. Like that's how it is, and then they get bigger, and we've seen it like time and time again with like XQC and Ninja. Like they grew because they had so much drama surrounding them. But they make money for the big Twitch daddies, so it's fine.
I want to like.
Oh, go ahead, Bailey.
No, I was just gonna touch on like the whole like the spectacle around those people that get into the hot seat and like they get into trouble because they do things online. And the one thing that has always peeved me is oh well, they're autistic, so like they don't know how to they can't they don't understand the social cues. They don't understand this, so like he didn't understand, and I'm just like, please don't drag the rest of us into
Right. Oh my goodness. And it's not to say that, they're obviously like sometimes, and I'm, speaking for myself, like I don't pick up on social cues all the time, but that does not excuse when I feel like saying a faux pas makes it seem so like lackadaisical, but for lack of a better term, like it doesn't excuse my behavior or the things that I say, like just because I have, I fall under the umbrella of being neurodivergent, I still am responsible for my actions, for my behavior, for the people I keep around me. And like you said, Ninja and XQC and whoever else, if I had $1 for every time I saw them on my Twitter timeline for some nonsense, oh my goodness, I would be set for life.
You'd have as much
I would
money
be
as
set.
them.
Right.
Yeah, it's a rough one. I would love to see like a case study done on the top Twitch earners. Like I just want to see it. I just want someone to study their careers and just, I don't know, do freaking bar charts and graphs on like the rise and fall and their controversies, quote unquote. Like that's just what I want to see, because I'm so just intrigued how you can just, I don't want to upset Papa Twitch. I know, well, actually XQC doesn't, because he's fucking gone now. But sorry, Twitch, I know they earn you a lot of money, but like I don't understand how you can just let that slide and just be like, yeah, thanks for making us all this sub money. I love that. But
And I feel like that's just to kind of piggyback off of that as well. Like Twitch is very, very concerned with their top cash cows, so to speak. And it makes me think about how at the height of the hate raids, like people of color, trans people, disabled people are literally getting doxxed, like full legal names, addresses, phone numbers, like anything you could think of. And it was just radio silence for a long time. And I understand that, Twitch is trying to like work behind the scenes, but it feels a lot of the time like they were so quick when it came to the whole issue with gambling. They addressed that in like a week flat. Meanwhile, we're waiting weeks and weeks to an upwards of a month or more to hear something about what they're doing about hate raids. And then it turned into creators having to take it into their own hands. And, like I have a panic button on my stream deck, and, having to ask trusted friends, if you have the extra time, can you be a temporary mod for me? And it's just, I think it's very telling, where Twitch's loyalty lies, if that makes sense.
I think also where their resources go as well. Like the Pride stream I hosted last month, we were very kindly, like Twitch put us on the front page, and that was wonderful. But I was also like, I know how this is gonna go, and it did. Like for the first part of stream, like there are people coming in, like just saying all the usual stuff about how they hate the gays. And in my head, I'm like, surely, like, there must be somewhere along the line that someone at the top part of Twitch that's in charge of, like, community or anything like that goes, okay, we have a gay pride stream on the front page. Stuff's gonna we know it's gonna happen, so we should maybe have, like, a mod team on hand, like a Twitch mod team, to look at that, who can, like, instantly deal with this stuff rather than, like, the streamer themselves. Like, it's such a simple thing to do to just help out the community. Like, you know how it's gonna go. Like, you know your clientele on Twitch. Like, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So it's just stuff like that. Whereas I think that Twitch can just put so many more resources into that. I guess, you know, it's that capitalist mindset again if they just want the numbers. It's like, it's not necessarily about doing good or doing good initiatives or anything like that. It's just, how are we gonna make some money out of this? How are we gonna make it good? And so it's, yeah, I don't know why I'm wasting my breath talking about how Twitch could
It's
help.
not a waste when you have to like, because a lot of times people that aren't a part of the, you know, this, oh my god, not a brain fart right now, that aren't a part of the industry, I don't think it's a waste to say it, because like if you're not in the industry, if you're not actively talking about this, then the people that are in your community, the people that want to support you but don't know how, won't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So like, as annoying as it is, it may get me shadow banned sometimes. It may drop my numbers. Sometimes I go into single digit views because I talk too much, but I'm not going to stop. You know, I'm not going to stop saying things and calling people out, calling brands out, calling companies out, because that's what they are at the end of the day, companies and corporations. I can't hurt a corporation's feelings. They're rolling in money. Okay. I'm gonna say something, and I need my community to know that like, this is what I stand by, this is what I'm doing. I'm not playing this game because they don't support people like me. I'm not going to take a sponsor from this brand, even if they give me thousands and thousands of dollars, because they don't care about me. They don't care about me or people like me. And so I feel like it's important to say it, even if you, like you said, like, I don't want you to ever think like, I don't know why I'm wasting my breath. It's not a waste of breath, because it's just, people need to know like how it works, you know, rainbow capitalism, or like, it honestly, any like visibility month or whatever, you know, like Black History Month, like, oh sure, you know, Target wants to put displays on every corner of the store, but like once it's over, it's gone. And you know, oh, we're not going to actually care about our Black workers, and we're not going to protect them. You know, Hispanic Heritage Month, you know, everyone's like, I'm gonna pay you, like, me to me, and they're like, Bailey, what, you're Mexican, okay, here, we're gonna support you, and after that, it's radio silence. You know. And Pride Month, like, look what happened this year with Pride. Immediately, you know, there was a little bit of backlash, and Target took everything down. So it's like, they don't care about us, they don't care. And then, like you mentioned at the beginning of today's stream, Disability Pride Month, where's Twitch? Where's Twitch?
Yeah.
You have to
And
do it yourself.
It's been like that for as
Ever.
long as I can remember, like being on the platform, not even as a creator. I've never seen anything from Twitch about Disability Pride Month. It is all for show, and like Bailey said, like, it's just radio silence. Like, it's like the second that Pride Month is over, for example, all the rainbow icons go away, and they're just like, all right, pack it up, gays, like, you've had enough. Like, and it's like,
Man, the Bud Light fiasco with Dylan Mullaney.
still
is so
still
sad.
here, still very much gay. Like, it's not, you know, it's not going away just because the month is over.
Yeah.
I just really wish that there was more focus on supporting, you know, disabled people, queer people, like, whatever marginalized identity that you fall under. I just want you to know that you matter. And like Bailey said, the rainbow capitalism, for example, and that can be said with any sort of like month where a marginalized group of people is being, you know, recognized or, you know, identified or whatever, what have you. It goes beyond that so much more. You know, we are here. I don't get to hang up my queerness. I don't get to hang up my Blackness. I don't get to shelve my disabilities when I get tired of them. And so it would just be nice to see more acknowledgement from these huge companies. And, you know, just show us something other than just performative action. for the month of, Pride Month or Disability Pride Month or Black History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month,
I think I'll say this one last thing and then we'll take a break because I really have to be. um, this is just me going into like data goblin mode because I really like data. It's also like even thinking of it from a capitalistic point, like something I pitch to companies a lot when talking about like you should do more for disabled people, is that this is data for both the UK and the US. Like it's been proven time and time again that if you have a diverse like employees, like if you have diverse employees, if you have diverse marketing in games, if you have diverse characters, anything like that, you earn more money. Like and
Yep.
like you earn more money, and so like I there's even something in it for you, even if you don't care about us, even if you don't care about marginalized people, like it literally also benefits you. And I so like to me it just is nonsensical to not do more like diverse initiatives. What encouraging words or words of advice would you give to like other disabled people who want to go into content creation, either like part-time, for funsies, full-time, anything like that?
Just do it.
Yes.
girl.
My
Also
piece of oh, go ahead, Bailey.
No, I just said also be nice to yourself though.
Yes.
True. My piece of advice is turn your view count off.
Yes.
If you are a nervous wreck like I am, I find it really helpful to not focus on analytics until after the fact. Like obviously this being my full-time job, I do have to focus on numbers to a certain extent. But I will turn my view count off and just have fun with it. For me personally, this started as a hobby, so and even back then I'm just, my default state is anxious, so like I find that if I'm just being my awkward, strange self, it is a lot better in the long run. There is a seat at the table for everybody. The things that make you who you are is what is going to attract people to you. So don't be afraid to showcase your true self and just enjoy the ride.
I think also, like you said, like there's a seat for everyone at the table. I think it's like almost a scare tactic to be like, it's so oversaturated. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber or a streamer or whatever. Like what, like you have to be, I don't know, Superman to be able to do it. But like honestly, like what someone else could do, but you can't. Like if like anyone can do it. It's like there are people that could be looking for a streamer exactly like you. And I think as long as you pace yourself and you know what you are capable of achieving without burning yourself out and without like being detrimental to your health, just go for it. Like everybody like I think started streaming and was just like, let's just fuck around and find out. And then just ended up either hating it or loving it and then ended up wherever.
Yeah. But just to emphasize what Molly said, definitely knowing your limits is important. And like we've been saying all stream long, like grind culture does not mean that you are going to have like this extraordinary rise to the top. Pace yourself and give yourself grace, I think, is another huge thing, because again, it all goes back to grind culture and you have to figure out what does and doesn't work for you. And I've always said that, content creation may not be for everybody, and that's okay too. Figure out what works for you and just take it from there.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say, like everyone else has said, be kind to yourself. Burnout is real. It's easily done. It's easy just to get sucked into the hoo-ha of everything. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely be kind to yourself. Don't also be yourself. Yeah, definitely always be yourself. You will attract people like,
Yeah.
like when it comes to neurodivergency and being magnets, you will attract the people, that are right for you as well. But it's also important to set boundaries as well. I feel like that's important. Don't
Mm-hmm.
do or let things go just because you don't want to pee off someone,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And I would also say, don't. I guess I can relate to everyone. Don't be comparing yourself to other people. Like, you're in your own lane, they're in theirs. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good to, like, have, I guess, someone that you look up to, like for inspiration, etc. But you do you, and the right people will follow. You will build the right community.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when it comes to content creating, it can be very expensive. Just do what you can with what you got. You don't need to be getting yourself into debt and all that type of stuff just to get the most latest equipment. Like, when I started streaming, I was using, like a settee, just, the armrest of a settee. That was my
Yeah.
chair. My butt was sore for hours. I was hunked up in a little corner. The PC I had wasn't meant for gaming or streaming. I was always having the blue screen of death. Like, it's but also
Mm-hmm. It's
it's
an
also good.
expensive thing to do.
Yeah, it is, but it's also good to also just enjoy the process. Enjoy the process as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's important, to have fun. Don't be too hard on yourself. That's the type of stuff I would, want to share. And, but again, sometimes it could be easier said than done. It is easy. Sometimes I do need to take a bit of, what's the word? Take the advice I give. Like, I don't do it.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I don't do it myself.
what's the oh, do as I say, not as I do.
Type thing. I need to take, type thing. I know it's easier said than done, but yeah, definitely
Mm-hmm.
be kind to yourself. Just give yourself that rest. If you feel like you need a week off from streaming, do it. If you don't want to show your face on cam, don't show your face on cam. And also, just, I don't know, just experiment. Just do whatever. If you want to, just do it. Just do it. Just go for it. Just try it. If you want to try
Okay,
something new,
full
just
circle.
do it. Yeah. Just go for it.
Yeah,
Go
I
for
think
it.
I wanted to add there is no right or wrong answer, but if you're going to start doing it, I think it's important to ask why. Why do you want to? The only wrong answer is to be like, I'm gonna go online and spread hateful things. But
Yeah.
like, no one's really
Yeah.
doing that unless like you're the worst person in the world. But like knowing what you're wanting to do and what you want to get out of content creation before doing it is so
Yeah.
important. Sometimes people just fall into it, but if you're like actively thinking like I want to do this, like
Yeah.
ask yourself why.
Why?
Do you want, because I just want to have fun. I like community building and I think that would be great. I want to make more friends online and I want to do it by sharing the same video games that we like. I want to do this, or do you want to do this professionally? Like where do you want to start? And like Abby would say, it you don't need all the fancy stuff. You definitely don't. I'm right there with you. Or starting out my little chair that was $20 from Walmart where the back fell off every 20 minutes, and like my same desk that was also $20 from Walmart that was like peeling at the edges. My stream was a slideshow because of my PC was graphics card was not it. And I was using when I first started, a keyboard that the local library threw away. So
I
like I didn't
love
even have
that. A
like I was
resourceful.
roughing it. A TV as my monitor, like $100 TV that I got at Target as my monitor. Like it just don't get intimidated because obviously you're gonna go online and you're gonna see people, like using a Shure mic that cost them $400, a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, having a $2,000 PC or more, you know, and having all these like fancy things. And like, I assure you, nobody started like that. Like 100%, no one did that.
Unless they were like
Um,
really lucky.
Yeah, unless you are already
Yeah.
like making bank in your day job, like no one's starting like that. And like us being disabled creators, we for sure did not start like that because you know it's expensive being disabled. So but just definitely think about why you want to do it. Because if your intentions are pure or are good-hearted, you will do just fine. You will be perfectly okay, no matter what your views are, no matter what content you're creating. Just do it because you want to, not because of someone else, or you know, you want to be like someone else. Being your genuine self is going to be the most important thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Definitely.
100% agree.
I just, because we were talking about like our old setups, I just wanted to say again, if you are like, I don't have the best stuff, I can't be in content creation, I literally, one of my wonderful sponsors, Elgato, sent me this mic. Up until last year, I've been streaming for 5 years. I used a headset mic up until like I think March last year. I used a headset mic, and I'll tell you what, it was a good headset mic.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I'm so unfancy compared to everybody else. Like, I was sitting on a plastic stool. My key light, I just got a tripod for it, I think a year and a half ago. Before that, I just balanced it on the top of a monitor because I was like, that'll do, that's great. So I promise, if you're like, I don't have the best equipment, it'll work.
I think like also to add on to that, use your resources. Use them.
Absolutely, yes.
Use your resources. You know, if you don't got it like that, make it a bit, dude. Make it a bit on your stream. It's like, oh yeah, another day. How many times can I fall out of my chair because it broke today? You know, like make it a whole thing. And like using your resources also, like there are free, like because content creation is so big now, there are so many free things that you could use, you know, like to post on TikTok. Like there's things like Streamliner and like things like that. Canva is free and you can edit videos on it. Like
You can edit videos on it?
Yeah,
Canva is
videos.
awesome.
I didn't know
Canva is awesome. I was just dabbling in Canva and I made like a little 50-second like channel trailer. It's incredible.
I literally didn't know that was a thing.
Also,
we had a good.
I had to pull this from the archives. I don't even know if
Love
y'all
it.
can see that.
Oh yeah,
But
I've seen
that
I wish I had a
is-
before picture for mine.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, it's
before and
like
after.
it's like so blurry, but when I first started streaming, I had a $40 boom arm that did not stay in place. I had, oh my god, and you can even see it in this photo. The little, damn it, I don't know if y'all could see it, but there's like a little blue thing, and it's quite literally from middle school, one of the locker organizers, and I used it to put my laptop there so I could read chat because I only had one monitor for the longest time.
Yeah.
I had a hand-me-down chair, and my keyboard and mouse was like a little dual set that cost about $20 from Amazon. So like from humble beginnings.
I wanted to look at Hexy's question was, what was like the why for us? Like, why did we get into content creation and all that? Mine's so shit. Mine was, I used to talk to myself when I played games, and I was like, you know what if I didn't talk to myself, but I'd talk to people on the internet instead? And that was literally it. That was it.
So
That's cute. No, that's cute. That's
Molly,
cute.
I don't want to alarm you, but I feel like that is definitely something that autistic people do.
Intent.
I just was like thought to myself out loud, and I think it was like the guy I was dating at the time was like, you should start streaming because you talk a lot, and I was like, oh, okay, I will, that's fine.
oh man.
What
My
about
why?
you guys?
My why? I feel like mine's gonna be like, I turned everything into a long-winded story. Thanks a lot. Now I'm self-conscious about my autistic tendencies of my hyperventilations and the way I talk. No, but like, so I actually went started looking at Twitch as a viewer. It was one day where there's like YouTuber that I followed. She's like, "Yeah, I'm streaming on Twitch. I'm playing Sims." I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah." And I kind of stopped after a while, and I was like, "Oh, there's someone playing Skyrim. I love Skyrim." But what really got me actively like being an active user as a viewer was Jenna Marbles played a lot of Elder Scrolls. And she was playing ESO online, and she was playing with this with her friend, and it turned into like a whole meme because he had music requests on. And we went over there and we were memeing, and I was like, wait, this is really fun. And so that's actually how I found Jason Soley, and I have been a part of his community forever. And so I mostly stood there, hung out because he was playing ESO with Jenna. And so I was started as a viewer, and after times I would like always like after some time I was always talking about my Twitch friends. I'd be like, "Oh my god, B-Bean said this. Oh my god, Jen said this," and I would never shut up. And my IRL friends were like, "We don't know what you're talking about." But after some time, like I finally drilled it into their heads that like, okay, I'm active on Twitch. I'm using it. My friend was just like, we don't really get to hang out because I work nights a lot and I want to play Overwatch with you, but like I can't because I'm too tired. Could you stream it for me? And I could just watch
Aw.
you. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I just got a PC so I could play games with my boyfriend. Yeah, let me say that. Like, so I started streaming Overwatch so she could watch. And that is the only reason I started it. And then from there, like people that were part of like I was friends with online communities started hanging out with me, and so it just went from there. That person does not talk to me anymore, but like it's such a wholesome it's such a wholesome start because like I just literally just started because I would not shut up about Twitch, and my friend was just like, you know what? Yeah, can you stream it for me?
I love that. That's so cute. That's such a cute story. Mira, what about you? What was your humble beginning?
I grew up being surrounded by gamers. So my oldest sister, my cousins, they were all like very heavily into video games. Um, my sister kind of encouraged my love of video games. Like she had a Sega Genesis that she would let me play on with her. And she bought me my first console, which was a PlayStation 1. Shout out to Crash Bandicoot. That was my first ever video game that I owned myself. But I just grew up playing games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and things like that. So I've always had this ingrained love of video games. And I don't quite remember how I found out about Twitch, but like Bailey, I started out as just a viewer. Um, I was a pile of anxiety, so I didn't even chat most of the time. I would just lurk in people's streams. Um, and it got to a point where I eventually found communities where I felt safe to chat in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a game changer. And I think that that was part of the reason why I decided to like dip my toe into streaming myself. I feel like it kind of helped me manage my anxiety in a way. And just seeing like this sort of camaraderie that I always desired because I was a very shy, awkward kid growing up and I didn't have a whole lot of friends. And that definitely changed when I started making friends here on Twitch. And it did start out as just a hobby. I was working full time in the school system and I went full time when COVID happened. And I've been here ever since and I love it so much. This is very much a dream job for me. But yeah, it started out as a hobby that just snowballed into full-time content creation. And I have some of the best friends that I've ever made, Bailey included. I'm literally live up her ass.
Go further.
But yeah, that's how it started.
I love that. That's so cute.
That's lovely.
Oh, I just
Um,
pulled off my eyelash.
For me, Basically, so where I'm from, I live in a predominantly white town. So I was literally like the only black kid in school. That was me. Um, Growing up, when it comes to like social friendship groups, like I've always had friends. I got on with them. It was fine, but I always felt like not really part of it.
Yes.
And then there would be other groups where, oh, actually, I feel like I'm more like that. But then again, still not fully, if that makes sense. It was like kind of like always an in between. Like I always had friends, but I never felt like I found that kind of like social group. And then obviously being the only black kid in school and always being the only black person in the workplace, like literally like, and if people who I grew up with or people in school and work, if they knew what I was doing now, they'd be like, what the hell? I did not know you were into games, you did this, you did that. Like a lot of people were like, wow, bloody hell, like didn't know anything about that. So not only being like the only black kid, but also being female, there was no one else like me where I live, if that makes sense. Especially being up way up north. And I guess this is where Nisaga came into it, coming across Stephanie, big up Steph, CEO of Nisaga. So I seen an article online about black women in gaming, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've actually found someone who actually looks like me, type thing. That's interested in, what I'm interested in. So and then I got onto Twitch as a viewer watching it, and then it was kind of like, you know what? Again, representation type thing. Like I want to do that. And there's this quote. I usually remember this. I'm going to need to find it now. Was it until I saw someone who looked like me doing what I wanted to do, I never thought it was a possibility. I'm sure that's how it goes, and that's what it was like for me. So when I saw Steph and that's one, until I saw people who looked like me doing the things I wanted to do, I wasn't so sure it was a possibility. So that like quote was like literally like I proper like vibe to that, and I was like, I can do that. And that's how it started for me. And then being online, coming across other communities, like other, gamers, content creators who look like me. That's how it started for me, if that makes sense. So I wanted to be like that. I want to, I guess, be a part of that, be like, for someone out there that can relate to me, I would like to be that person, I guess, a black woman, a different social background growing up, with learning disabilities, ADHD, coming from, a mixed family. So I feel like just stuff like that, I don't know, there's someone out there needs you. They need someone to look up to, and you could be that person. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah,
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is Twitch is, as much as we've fucking shown Twitch this entire stream, it is like, it's like a conduit for finding people and finding people like you and finding communities. Like the friends I have, I would say I'm only friends with like 2 people that I met like in person first. Other than that, my entire group of friends is people I met online, either through Twitch or through gaming and stuff like that. And I love that that is a possibility, that like these online communities can just like come together, just be like little besties. Like I like Mira and Bailey, I met you through like Jen's stream team, and if that didn't exist, and like if that didn't exist, I never would have met you. Like I wouldn't have known you exist probably. And it's just stuff like that where I'm like, that's so cute. And it is like my like one of my closest group of friends now I met through like literally Overwatch. I met my best friend through Overwatch. And then she introduced me to my now boyfriend, and then like my other group of friends I met through Twitch, like it is, although it can be a shitty place, Twitch is also a very nice place. And so I
Yeah.
think if you want to do content creation, you could be part of making that a nice place.
I think that's also like what I love seeing, because it's like it's not even just for me. Seeing people in my community forming bonds with each other outside of
Yeah.
that, and that they became best friends because of me. So like I in my spare time I do a lot of tabletop stuff, tabletop gaming. So I play a lot of Pathfinder, and it makes me so happy seeing my friends coming together. Like I have one friend that I met through community. They followed me since day one, and they have always been like, I have seen so many parts of them, like the day that he decided his new name and coming out as a non-binary trans person, and like I have seen them through everything. And then to see him being friends with someone he would have never met if it weren't for like my chat from a completely different community, and like seeing them being like best friends now and always gaming together, always hanging out and being a part of something that I helped create, it's just, it makes me so happy. And I'm just like, look, thank you together, because I just decided to stream a silly little game one day. And it's beautiful.
It is so
For
cute.
sure.
Yeah.
Just to, I wanted to just mention, like, okay, we might shit on Twitch, but also I just want to point out that I think it is important that we can love or enjoy something and still be critical of it and still want it to be better. And I think that's an important thing to just make note of here. Like I said, I've met so many of my closest friends, like people that just genuinely enrich my life day to day. Like I would not be the same person if I didn't have their friendship, and it's because of Twitch. I've met some of the most wonderful people on this platform, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
I agree. Like
Yeah.
I shit on Twitch this entire time, but also like I love it. Like I obviously, like I wouldn't. Okay, to be fair, I don't have a choice to stream it anywhere else because there's no competitor. But like, but like I do. Like I love what Twitch creates, although the system itself is shit and doesn't work for marginalized people, for women, or anything like that. The communities that Twitch has allowed me to have, the people in my community, the friends I've made, the like money that gets raised for charity on Twitch, like although that's not Twitch itself, it is this host for all these things. And so yeah, I completely agree with Mira that I love Twitch and can definitely also shit on it in the hope that, and I think it's because you like that I love Twitch so much that I'm like, I know you could be so much better and you could be doing so much more.
Yeah, and you should definitely, the things you love, you should definitely be critical of. There is a difference between being, like calling out, calling in, we love the platform. We want it to be better, and it's just like if you're with people, the people you love, you want them to be better. And the platform we love, we want it to be better as well.
Yeah, 100%. And then, God, I need to get better segues. Moving on to my last question of the night. Well, I guess night for me, not so much for Bailey and Mira, but for me.
Yeah.
It's
And me.
1:20
And
PM
me.
for me.
Yeah. My last question is, for people either working full time or are disabled or anything like that, is there any advice or like systems you could advise on, talk about that would help people balance content creation and life, basically? Like for me, I think we've talked a lot about like knowing what you're capable of and not burning yourself out. And I think for me, like knowing my limitations really helped me to balance everything, because I could be like, okay, I can spend this much time doing this, and then I know I'm gonna need like a rest day, and then I can do this, but that's out in London, so I know I'm gonna need 2 rest days. And I think that's like the biggest advice I give to anyone is knowing your limitations.
Mm-hmm. I am definitely the same way. Like I like knowing what to expect in advance if possible. So that way I can kind of, I feel like it has a bit of mental preparation, in addition to like the physical aspect of having to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know for myself personally, when it comes to like, for example, doing chores around the house. When I was younger, I had a really bad habit of just forcing myself, even though I would be like in so much pain, I would force myself to do every chore that I needed to do that same day. So that meant like vacuuming, that meant like washing clothes, that meant cooking dinner, that meant, whatever it is that I needed to do. And I would try to like condense it all into one day. And I guess as I'm getting older and I'm realizing like, hey, I'm disabled and it's not a bad thing, it's not a negative thing, and this is just who I am.
Mm.
I try to give myself more grace when it comes to breaking things down, breaking these tasks down, um, you know, day by day, or even if I have to give myself a few hours of rest in between. Um, and even simple things that make everyday life a little more bearable, whether it's a mobility aid. I have a roller and a cane that I use sometimes, just when I'm like working around the house or I have to go out and do a lot of walking. Um, uh, Meal replacement shakes, ready meals, things like that. Like anything that'll make just existing as a disabled human being easier, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shame, and I think um, it's a very crucial and important way of trying to break up the stigma surrounding chronic illness and disability, um, by just appreciating the things that you can do,
Yeah.
even if you have to make it more accessible for yourself, even if you have to break it up. It doesn't mean that you aren't capable of doing something. It doesn't mean that, it just is. It
Mm-hmm.
is a thing, like you learn to adjust to what your body needs, and that's okay.
100%. It's like what I said earlier. Being disabled is not like a good thing, bad thing. It's just neutral.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Mm-hmm.
is. And so it sucks sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't suck, and you just gotta roll with it depending on what's going on that day. It is, yeah. I think it 100% is whatever will make your life easier, whether that's only doing like a 30-minute stream rather than like a 4-hour stream one day. Like I think I very much fell into the habit for a while of being like, unless I'm doing like a 3 or 4 hour stream, there is no point in me streaming whatsoever.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so now I'm just like, you know what? Twitch is meant to be a chill time. We're not out here punishing myself, and so I just, if it's only a 30-minute stream, it's only a 30-minute stream. If it's only an hour stream, if that's all I can do, then that's what we do.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good. I like how you that you mentioned that, Molly. It's kind of like doing things based on your, I guess, your energy levels, like conserving that energy. There may be like a task which you want to do, but like you mentioned, Mira, just breaking down that task. Maybe I can't give that task, just for example, just from the top of my head, a full 100%, but maybe a 10% or something, just basing it on your energy levels. I'm sure there's a word for it. I'm not sure if it's like kind of like a traffic light, just doing it's based on your
Spoons.
it may it may be it's so hard for me to but like Molly said, let's say if I don't stream for 3 or 4 hours, I'm not streaming at all. But okay, then stream for, do you have the energy levels to stream for 30 minutes then? Like just basing it on your current energy level. You don't need to go all out 24/7.
Yeah.
And it's, I think that's a difficult question because that's something which I'm still figuring out and trying to manage. So again, like what Mira said, just give yourself grace. I don't have any like bulb eureka, like this is what you need. This is I feel like there isn't a solid answer. You have to just do what works for you.
100%.
Yeah, I feel like both of you, all of y'all have made like excellent points. Do what you can with what spoons you have left. And like, if anyone's like in chat, like, what do you mean spoons? Spoon theory is a thing that a disabled person came up with, and basically you start the day with so many spoons, and each task you can use so many. So maybe doing the dishes cost you 2 spoons. So like maybe you started with 10 spoons. Dishes cost you 2 spoons. Showering costs you 3. And so like at the end of the day, you only have so many, and you have to figure out where you want to place them.
Yeah.
So that is definitely something that we have to take into account. I feel like for me personally, maybe it's the Virgo in me. Maybe it's the Virgo in me where I have like three things that I keep in mind: organization, communication, and investment.
I like that.
I know it sounds so professional. It sounds so fancy. And I swear to you, it's not. It's actually super, super lax. I promise. Okay. I promise I'm not a weird Virgo that just like makes everything into a calendar and a to-do list. But like organization as in just like, do you want to schedule? Do you not want to schedule? If you do a stream, what are you going to do that day? Knowing if you have a full-time job, like what we were talking about, what is your schedule for that week? What can you give that week? Don't do too much. Test out the waters. How many hours can you do for that day? And don't do more. Maybe do less if you feel like it. So organize your time wisely, and just knowing your limits. And communication is just communicating with maybe you're co-streaming with somebody. Communicate what you need, communicate what you want, communicate your expectations, and not just like with brands and people you're streaming with, but also your community. Your community will not know how to help you if you do not say it. Communicate with them. Say, hey, this is the schedule for this week, but there's no guarantee that I'm going to feel well every single day. And I will let you know if things change. I am going to tell you, I have a very bad pain day. I'm sorry, I'm low on spoons today. So communicating those needs and those wants is super important. So that way people can understand. And if those people don't want to understand, then we don't want them around. And investment is kind of like what Mira brought up about like spend the money on the food you need. We need to eat. People want to think about like eating out and ordering food in and whatnot is a lazy thing. No, it's an accessible thing. If you need to spend $100 on food, on takeout food that week because you literally cannot stand long enough to cook your own food, that is an investment in yourself so that you can do what you need to do that week. And also things like sometimes we have too much anxiety showing our face online. So one way we can get around that is I want to get a PNG tuber, I will invest in myself to get that. So that way I have something that's entertaining my viewers while also, investing in myself and giving myself grace. So like, I try to keep those things in mind whenever I'm doing anything. Like, how can I organize this? How can I communicate it with my community? And in what ways, if I'm planning on buying something, how is it an investment in me and how will it benefit me in the long run? So that's kind of how I look at it whenever I do things. I do this as a full-time job, so it's kind of more difficult for me to give advice on that. But definitely just your time is important. So if you're working a full-time or even part-time job outside of content creation, your time is important, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And you can do whatever you need to do, whether it's the bare minimum or going all out. Just do what you can.
Yeah,
I'll be taking that advice on board. That was really interesting. I haven't heard of it in that context before, Bailey, so that's really interesting. And I feel like it's also important to say as well that you're not going to get it right straight away. It may take some time. It may be a bit of trial and error until you do find out that works for you, and that's okay. Yeah, but yeah, definitely going to be taking Bailey's advice for that one. I like that one.
Me too. I am
Yeah,
very
definitely.
bad about. I think like I communicate to my community quite well when I'm like sick or when I'm ill, but I also think that I terribly fall into the trap of like being the inspirational disabled person of like I may be dying, but like I'm gonna stream 7 hours today. And I think I did for like the first 4 years of streaming, and then I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like gonna slowly like wither away. And so I think like I tend to not communicate to my community because I feel like a lot of guilt around like if I don't stream, I'm like, oh my god, I'm a failure. Everybody's gonna hate me. Everybody's gonna think I'm lazy. And so I just don't say anything and I just keep quiet. And I think that isn't fair on my community because like they're very understanding and very lovely people. Because so why would they have any other reaction than like, oh, okay, I hope you feel better soon. Like I get so much guilt around not working, and it is the hustle culture like impeding down on me of just, oh god, my eyelash keeps falling off, of just like me thinking, you know, you have to work all the time, and I'm actively against it. Oh no, we lost Mira.
Oh no, Mira. Oh no, I got pushed. No.
But either way, wait, let me quickly see if I can move everybody around. Wait.
What if I just move one way?
Oh, that's me. Oh. Oh wait.
What? Oh.
There. Mira's back.
There we go.
Hi, Mira.
Hi, Mira.
I'm a zombie again.
About the browser by accident.
Oh,
I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened.
It's okay.
Okay. Well, on that note, anyway,
we all swapped names.
Yeah, we all swapped names now. We've all shuffled around. I'm
Bailey now.
Yeah.
It is secretly a test. But that was the last of my questions. So, did any of you want to add anything? Throw insults at me? Throw insults at chat?
Never.
Before we go. And also, please plug yourselves. Tell everybody where they can find you, and also say your names because you're currently under the wrong nameplate. So
yes.
So, Abby, where can everybody find you?
Hello all. So I'm Wasabi. That's like, you know, wasabi, but with a Z and a double I, you know, what's up, Wasabi, bit of wordplay there. What's up? You know, the ghost, you know, scream. Anyway, moving on, that's me. You can find me on Twitch, Wasabi. You can find me on TikTok, Wasabi. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Insta. I'm on Twitter. And I think that's about it. And also thank you for chat as well. I have been reading chat. I'm sorry I haven't replied to everything, but you know, thank you for supporting, for being here. And yeah, that's me. That's me.
And Bailey, where can everybody find you?
Where can't you find me is the real question. I'm EvolveCM. It's Magic Love backwards, or you can call me Bailey. I am EvolveCM on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Fan House, and now Threads. Did I miss any? I have a YouTube as well. Haven't posted on there in a while, but do it anyways, just in case. Yeah. Fan House is actually currently it is being paid, but I'm actually going to make it free. So if you have Fan House and are interested in it, by next week, I am going to open it up for everybody. I post a lot of I post my writing there, poetry, lots and lots of cute cat photos. Okay, I have Minnie Foster, so if you like those, that's on Fan House, and everywhere else is just kind of casual. And Twitch is my main platform, though. So yeah.
And Mira, where can everybody find ye?
Hi, Q chat. I am Melee Mira. I use she, they pronouns. and you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Melee Mira. Or if you want like a nice little page that has all of the pertinent links, check out my Beacons page. It's beacons.ai/Melee Mira. So I've got that for convenience. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, Molly. Chat, you were
No, thank
awesome. I was
you.
also reading what Chat had to say, and it was very nice to see Chat getting involved in the conversation as well. This was absolutely fantastic, and it was a pleasure sitting down and talking with all of y'all.
Thank you all for coming on. I really appreciate it because it's just nice. Like I was actually like, oh fuck me, I almost cried at this today. I almost cried today because I was sitting on my couch and I just finished breakfast now, and oh god, I'm gonna cry now. I was just like, it's just so nice. Like we talked about like communities on Twitch earlier, but it is just so nice just knowing nice people and knowing people that can relate to you and what you're dealing with, and just like I'm just very, very lucky that a bunch of really lovely people agreed to do these streams this month, and so I am very, very thankful, and I'm very, very thankful that to the people that have showed up in chat. You are all amazing. I'm very thankful to our sponsors, who I'll give a shout out to again, the wonderful Elgato and the wonderful Molk. I'm very grateful that anybody wanted to be a part of this silly little idea that I had. So thank you.
One thing Molly's gonna do is cry.
Oh, that is literally any chance I get. I go. I was talking to the other day. I was just like, I cry at everything. And they're like, I haven't cried in 3 years, and I was like, I have a weekly cry. Like I schedule a day where I will cry. Anyway.
Okay, honestly, like growing up, I was always told that I was so sensitive, and now, like you said, you schedule in your cries. They're so cathartic to me. Like, no more like get back in there tear. Like, let it flow.
I love it. Like yesterday, I was just like, I am so sad, and I was like, I'm just gonna have a day to cry. I'm just gonna cry all day. And then today I woke up and I was like, wow, today's so much better. That was so good. I needed that.
You needed that.
I needed that. But anyway, enough about like the water flowing through my eyes. Thank you so much for being here, chat. I really, really appreciate it, everyone that stopped in. And for the raids and the subs and the follows. I'm sorry I couldn't say it as well.